Well, as you can tell, I really wish that YouTube would do something about their 10-minute limit. But anyways, I finished off at chapter 10, and that's where we're picking up in the first Samuel. Then Samuel took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head and kissed him and said, "Is it not because the Lord has anointed you to be captain over his inheritance?" Notes. Now, the kissing was the mode in that day of expressing homage to a sovereign, okay? Nothing perverted going on. As a matter of fact, it's something that's quite prevalent in most European countries, such as Italy, a good example of that, and even in France. Well, anyways, we will find that all the outward trappings of God's help is here. However, that which was outward could not change that was inward. The evil heart of unbelief is what is going to make itself very evident. That which is not God's will can easily be outwardly anointed by men, and often is. But still, such is not God's choice, and it will bear no good fruit. Verse 2. When you are departed from me today, then you shall find 2 men by Rachel's sepulchre in the border of Benjamin at Zilzah, and they will say unto you, The asses which you went to seek are found, and lo, your father has left the care of the asses, and sorrows for you, saying, What shall I do for my son? Notes. Meeting 2 men by Rachel's sepulchre was meant to be a sign to Saul. However, Saul would little understand that. Jacob loved Rachel greatly as God loved Saul, but still, Rachel was barren as Saul was barren. Part of her problem was her hatred of Leah. That's back in Genesis chapter 29. Then Rachel would resort to superstition, such as doing the thing with the mandrakes back in chapter 30. Saul will ultimately resort to witchcraft as well, and thankfully Rachel would find her way with God. But on a very, very sad note, Saul, he's not going to learn much. Verse 3. Then shall you go on forward from thence, and you shall come to the plain of Tabor, and there shall meet you 3 men going up to God to Bethel, one carrying 3 baby lambs, and another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a bottle of wine. And they will salute you, and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you shall receive of their hands. Notes. Now, obviously, people, these are signs, and they were there for many things. However, mainly they were designed to confirm in Saul's mind the conviction that Samuel was indeed the prophet of the Lord. For it must not be forgotten that although but a few miles separated their homes, yet chapter 9 verse 6 makes it clear that Saul was such a stranger to God and his kingdom that he did not know even of the existence of this mighty prophet. So why would the Lord choose such a man to be the king of Israel? Well, in reality, the Lord did not actually choose him. He was rather chosen by the people, and God's just kind of going along with it, saying, hey, all right, you don't want to trust me? Fine, we'll just go ahead and do things your way. And as always, it's going to be disastrous. Horrible chapters are about to open up right here. Verse 5. After that you shall come to the hill of God, where is the garrison of the Philistines. Notes. This shows that the most of the tribe of Benjamin was subject to that nation, and as well they were disarmed. But probably as long as the tribute was paid, the internal administration was not really messed around with or interfered with. Scripture. And it shall come to pass, when you are come thither to the city, that you shall meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place with a psaltery, and a tabret, and a pipe, and a harp before them, and they shall prophesy. Note, we find here that music dedicated to the glory of God is a great aid in the worship of God and in the exercise of His gifts, or the gifts, I should say. Years afterwards, David was thus educated and learned at one of Samuel's schools that skill in meter and melody, or psalmody, which added to this natural gift, and it made him a pretty good singer of Israel. And I also should say that We should also learn from this that peace treaties that are very poorly conceived are always going to end in disaster. And, well, if you make a deal with the Philistines, you're going to end up having some trouble. As a matter of fact, what this whole situation right here is boiling down to the trouble with the Philistines. Verse 6. And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you, and you shall prophesy with them, and shall be turned into another man. Note, the Lord would do all that he could to help Saul be the man that he should be. Verse 7. And let it be when these signs are come unto you that you do as occasion serve you, for God is with you. Note, in other words, he's saying press onward and the kingdom is your own, and success is sure. Verse 8. And you shall go down before me to Gilgal, and behold, I will come down unto you to the burnt offerings, and to sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days shall you tarry till I come to you, and show you what you shall do. Notes. Now in all of this, Samuel was telling Israel's future king that success depended upon faith in these burnt offerings and peace offerings, which of course were symbolic of Christ and him crucified. Now, regrettably, Saul would never see this, as most modern Christians will never actually see this. Unfortunately, the end result of these modern Christians will be the same exact thing as that of King Saul. Did I really say that? You bet I did, and I mean it. Verse 9. And it was so that when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, God gave him another heart, and all those signs came to pass that very day. Notes. The Hebrew, you should get your Strong's Concordance and look at the Hebrew, and it's very remarkable here. When he turned his shoulder to go from Samuel, God also turned for him another heart. In effect, God turned him around by giving him a changed heart. He grew internally up to the level of his changed circumstances, and I'll get to that a little bit more. Verse 10. And when they came thither to the hill, behold, a company of prophets met him. Notes, just exactly as Samuel said would happen, Scripture. And the Spirit of God came upon him, and he prophesied among them. Notes, Saul should have learned from all of this to lean heavily upon Samuel, but regrettably he didn't. And what I mean by leaning on this person is not necessarily to just depend on this person, but to learn their lessons. And what lessons did Saul learn? Well, we're just going to keep on reading. Verse 11. And it came to pass, when all who knew him before time saw that, behold, he prophesied among the prophets. Then the people said one to another, What is this that is come unto the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? Notes. In other words, as stated, the Lord would do all with this man that was humanly possible to get him to do the right things, but to no avail whatsoever. Verse 12. And one of the same place answered and said, But who is their father? Therefore it became a proverb, Is Saul also among the prophets? Notes. The idea of all of this gifts from the Lord aren't inherited. They come from God. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 28 through 31. Verse 13, and finishing up, And when he had made an end to prophesying, he came to the high place, and Saul's uncle said unto him and to his servant, Where did you go? And he said, To seek the asses. And when we saw that they were nowhere, we came to Samuel. Notes. This would be Abner in chapter 14, verse 50 through 51, also recorded in 1 Chronicles chapter 8, verse 33. Verse 15, And Saul's uncle said, Tell me, I pray you, what Samuel said unto you. And Saul said unto his uncle, He told us plainly that the asses were found, but of the matter of the kingdom whereof Samuel spoke, he told him not. And we must pick up in chapter 10, verse 17 of the book of 1 Samuel. Thank you, and God bless.